Hi, this is Involved Innovation YouTube channel. In this video, I will build a powerful PC with 4900K Intel processor and 98GB RAM and RTX 4090 graphics card. This is beginner friendly guide which covers everything. The parts I am using for this PC build are: motherboard is Z790 Tomahawk Max Wi-Fi which supports 14th and 13th generation Intel processor. Processor is Intel 14th generation i9 with integrated graphics, which is 4900K. There is another variant 4900KF which is without integrated graphics. Graphics card is 4090, which is the best and costliest consumer graphics card available in the market. In this build, I am using Tough Gaming OC edition, which comes with 24GB. For the RAM, I am using 2 RAM sticks with 48GB each, which is 96GB in total. I went with the Vengeance RGB version which has 5600 MHz speed. When you are buying RAM, make sure what the maximum RAM your motherboard will support. In my case, the Tomahawk Max Wi-Fi will support up to 192GB, so I went with this. This might be overkill if you are primarily using your PC for gaming needs. In my case, I am using this for video editing, creating animations, programming, deep learning and local LLM training. If you are planning to build a PC for gaming, then my recommendation is to go with 32 or 64GB with high RAM speed. The RAM speed refers to the rate at which data can be read or written, which ranges from 4800 to 7800 MHz mostly. I am using Thermaltake TH360 ARGB Sync all-in-one water cooler. Both 14th generation i9 processor and RTX 4090 are power-hungry device, so it is recommended to use a good cooler. This is RGB version without LCD display. For the PSU, I am using RM1200X Shift. This PSU is 1200 watts. 1200 watt is little bit overkill for this build. Even 1000 watts is good. I went with this PSU because it comes with 12 volt high power supply, which itself costs close to $19 to $25, and I like the RM1200X because of its side cable interface. But you need to make sure your CPU case is compatible with the side panel interface. I will provide more information about this later in this video. I am using Samsung 990 Pro PCIe 4.0 and 2TB SSD and 2 additional ARGB fan from Thermaltake. Finally, I am using Next H7 Flow case. I personally like the H7 Flow, which is very good for its price. I recommend using the PC part picker to verify if your parts are compatible with each other. If I use these exact parts in the PC part picker, this is giving one problem, that is unable to verify the Next H7 Flow ATX mid tower is compatible with the side interface modular connector of the Corsair RM1200X Shift 1200 watts. I know this RM1200X is compatible with Next H7 Flow, so I ignored this problem. And another warning that I may need to update the BIOS for the motherboard for 4900K support. Now the motherboard comes with the latest BIOS. Even if it comes with the old BIOS, we can update it as long as the motherboard supports that particular processor. Be careful when you are updating the BIOS. This requires some knowledge and expertise, but this is not an issue. First, I will unbox the Next H7 Flow case. This is a non-RGB case. The non-RGB case comes with 2 non-RGB 120mm fan. One is mounted in the front and another one is mounted in the back. The front one mounted in the center, and H7 Flow supports up to 3 120mm fan or 2 140mm fan in the top and single 120 or 140mm fan in the back and maximum of 3 120mm fan or 3 140mm fan in the front. This is 2022 model. The front, top, left tempered glass side and right side panel can be removed toolless. The front and top panels are perforated to support maximum airflow. This case supports up to 400mm GPU, so you can able to install 4090 without an issue. The cable bar is detachable and comes with rack to mount the hard disk. This case supports mini ITX, micro ITX and ATX motherboard sizes. The case has two 3.2 USB and one USB-C port as the front I/O support. Next, we will unbox Z790 Tomahawk Max Wi-Fi motherboard. The motherboard comes wrapped in a conductive grid bag. You can use the anti-static strap, or if you are not using the anti-static strap, then make sure not touching the core components and just rather lifting it by touching the corners. It comes with Wi-Fi antenna module, front panel connector. This will be handy if your case has separate pins for power on, off, reset and power indicator. 2 SATA cables, quick installation guide and 32 GB USB drive. This is really important. It comes with all the drivers pre-installed. Make sure you are not formatting it. You can use this to upgrade all the drivers. Next, I will unbox the Intel processor, which comes in nice glossy silver circular container. Twist the circular container to open. Make sure you are holding the processor by the edges. Look for the little triangle in one of the corners in the processor. Make sure you are aligning this with the triangle in the LGA 1700 socket in the motherboard. This is very crucial since you may damage the pins in the socket if you are placing it wrongly. Here we have the triangle in the left bottom corner in the motherboard. Now align that with the processor triangle. To open the mounting bracket, press the vertical pin. Once the pin is outside the groove, move the pin little to the right. The spring will automatically push the vertical pin to the other side. Now the mounting bracket will be opened. Align the processor triangle with the motherboard socket. Close the lid and then bring the vertical pin down. You may need to put little bit more force, but be gentle. Then place the vertical pin inside the groove. This will automatically separate the plastic socket shield. Now we have installed the processor in the motherboard. You need to keep the plastic socket shield safe, because if you need to return the motherboard for some reason, then you need to send this plastic shield along with it. Next, we will unbox and install RAM. This is Corsair Vengeance RGB RAM with two 48 GB RAM sticks. So 96 GB RAM in total. Don't touch the pin, just remove the RAM from the plastic case by the provided space in the bottom right. Before buying the RAM, check the maximum RAM your motherboard supports and also check how much maximum RAM your operating system supports. The Windows 11 home version supports up to 128 GB RAM. So make sure if you are using 192 GB RAM, you are using the Windows 11 Pro. In this build, the Tomahawk Z790 Max Wi-Fi motherboard will support up to 192 GB RAM, and also it has 4 slots, so the max RAM size I can buy is 48 GB per slot. If you have 4 RAM sticks, then you no need to worry about where you are placing, since you are going to place the 4 RAM sticks in the 4 slot. If you have 1 RAM stick, then you need to install that in the DIMM A2 slot, which is second slot from the left. In this build, I have 2 RAM sticks, so installing it in the DIMM A2 and DIMM B2 slot, which is the second and the fourth RAM slot from the left. Mostly this will be same for all the motherboard model, but just make sure your motherboard specification to check where you need to install the RAM if you have less than 4 RAMs. Next, we are going to use the AIO cooler as the CPU cooler. I am using the Thermaltake ARGB cooler with 360mm radiator. This comes with the installation guide. The box comes with 360mm radiator with a pump and 3 120mm ARGB fans. This comes with different brackets to support different socket types. I am choosing the bracket which supports LGA 1700. choose the bracket applicable based on your processor. This also comes with the thermal paste, but I am going to use the Arctic MX6 which I bought separately. Remove the 2 stickers in the AIO cooler mounting bracket and align the 4 screw holes to the back of the motherboard LGA 1700 socket. Pick the screws that have thread on both the side. Screw the thread with the smaller side to the AIO mounting bracket. Now I will mount the motherboard to the case. This case comes with the standoff bolts installed. Now place the motherboard aligning the case standoff bolts. These screws comes with the case. You can find the screw box in the back of the case in the hard disk tray. Now secure this motherboard with the screws. You can mount the SSD now, but I will be mounting this later. Now I will be mounting the all-in-one liquid cooler. Thermal take pump comes with a copper base and also it has 2 cables, one for RGB and another one for power supply. Already we mounted the pump bracket in the motherboard. The copper base in the pump comes with a plastic cover. Remove this before installing the pump to the processor. This is 360mm radiator. This also comes with 3 120mm ARGB fans. Each fan comes with 4 connectors, 2 ARGB connector and 2 power connectors. This helps daisy chain one fan with another, so it reduces the number of ARGB and power connection ports required from the motherboard. Another main thing to notice the fan direction. You can see the direction of airflow on the fan case. The general rule is the face of the fan sucks the air. So if you are planning to mount this radiator to the top of the case, then install the fan facing down so that the air goes out of the case. If you are mounting the radiator to the front, then make sure the fan faces in the front so that the air goes inside the case. So here I am planning to mount the radiator to the top. So I will mount the fan face facing down to expel the air out. Screw the fans to the radiator. Make sure you are placing all the fan wires in the same direction. This will help to organize the cable better. To daisy chain one fan with another, use the ARGB connector from one fan to another. It also comes with a little plastic clamp which securely holds the 2 ARGB connection, so you can use that. Similarly, connect the power pin of one fan to another. The next H7 flow case panel are screwless, so remove the top panel by lifting the top panel in the groove provided. Once the top panel is removed, remove the dust filter by gently pushing the dust filter to the left. Use pump clamp which comes with the AIO. Attach this clamp to the pump. Now comes the most debated step in the PC build, applying the thermal paste to the processor. In my personal opinion, if your processor is in square shape, which most of the AMD processor, applying the thermal paste to the center is enough. In this case, 1400K is not square, it is rectangle. So I place a small line in the center and 4 small drops in the corners. This will give a good thermal paste cover on top of the processor. Use the screw to mount the pump to the processor. Place the radiator with the fan to the top of the case. Now screw in one corner, then screw another corner which is diagonal to the case. This strategy stabilizes the radiator so you can place other screws. Now we will mount the ARGB fans to the case front. We can able to daisy chain these two fans, ARGB and power connections, fan face facing front of the panel. So the fan sucks and pushes the air into the case. This case supports both 140mm and 120mm fan. Here I am using 120mm fan. Pick the fan screws comes with the case and mount the fan to the case. Screw the fan from the back side. Now we will install the PSU. For this build I am using Corsair Shift RM1200X fully modular power supply. Here the fully modular means the cables are detachable. 1200 volt is little overkill, but I went with this PSU. Both RTX 4090 and 4900K are power hungry devices, and this comes with 12 volts high power cable as well, which we can use to power the RTX 4090. I like the side cable interface, which is good for cable management. But make sure you have at least 30mm clearance between the PSU to the side panel. If you don't have 30mm clearance between the PSU and your side panel, don't buy this PSU. We pick the cables we need. First we need to pick two 8-pin Type 5 cable to power the CPU. We need the ATX cable to power the motherboard. The ATX cable will have 10 plus 18 pin on one side, which plug to the PSU, and 24 pin to the other side, which plugs to the motherboard. And then we need 12 volt high power Type 4 cable, which supports 600 watts to power the 4090. The 12 volt high power cable has two 8 pins at one side, which plugs to the PSU in the 2 PCIe slot, and another end 12 pin goes to the GPU. If you have hard disk, you can use the SATA cable to power the hard disk. The box also comes with the power cord and zip ties. Mount the PSU to the case in such a way that the PSU fan must face down. Align the case PSU holes with the PSU and screw the PSU to the case. We need 30mm clearance, and we can able to see we have 30mm clearance here. First plug the ATX cable. PSU end of ATX cable has 18 and 10 pins. Plug the 18 pin cable here and then 10 pin here. Next, connect the CPU cable. It can be in any PCIe or CPU slot. Next, connect the 12 volt high power cable. Connect the end with 2 PCIe to the PSU. For better cable management, take the 2 CPU cable to the right side of the case and take the ATX cable to the center side of the case. Now plug the ATX cable to the motherboard, which is in the right side of the motherboard. Then plug the 8-pin CPU cable, which is in the left top of the motherboard. We have 2 pins there, which plugs CPU power 1 and CPU power 2. Now we will connect the front I/O cables to the motherboard. This next Flow H7 case has 2 USB 3.2 ports, 1 USB-C port and a audio port and power on off switch with power indicator LED. The front panel wires already organized. The wires have HD audio jack, which connects to the J-ARD1 port. The HD audio jack has 3 pins in the top and 4 pins in the bottom. Both the USB 3.2 port connects to the same wire. This connects to the JUSB 3 port in the right side of the motherboard. In some cases, the front panel wire combines all the front power indicator and reset buttons. In some cases, these cables are separated as one for power indicator and one for power on and off and another one for reset. This front panel connects to the JFP1 port, and you can use the cable management sticker to mark the wire. Remove the front panel USB-C wire cap and plug that to the JUSB 4 port in the motherboard. Plug the back fan power wire to the motherboard. This will be usually denoted by sys fan. You can wire it to any sys fan, and each motherboard contains different number of sys fan ports. If you want to use more fans, but if you don't have that many fan power supply in your motherboard, then you can use the commander modules. The sys fan port in the motherboard usually has 4 pins. In this case, this fan has 3 pins. So align the first 3 pins from the left to the fan wire. There is also a little plastic guide which makes inserting this in the wrong side difficult. The fan with 4 pins incorporates a pulse width modulation pin for high efficiency speed control. Now we will insert the front non-RGB fan power to the sys fan 2 pin in the motherboard. The other 2 front RGB fans power supply are daisy chained, so we need only one pin from the motherboard for powering both these fans. I am connecting it to sys fan 3. Now connect the radiator fans power supply pin to CPU fan pin in the motherboard, which is in the top edge, and connect the pump power supply to motherboard pump, which is in the top edge. I connected the front 2 fans ARGB pins to the radiator fans ARGB and also connected the AO RGB display together. All the ARGBs are daisy chained. Finally, connect the daisy chained RGB wire to the JRGB V2 in the top edge. We completed the wiring. If your processor has inbuilt graphics support, you can try connecting the monitor through the display port. If you are using Intel processor which ends with F, then it does not have inbuilt graphics. In this build I am using 4900K, so I can connect to the display. Connect the power cord to the PSU, turn on the power button, check if all the fans spin and all the RGB fans displaying colors. Then you should see the BIOS screen. Now we can unbox the RTX 4090 graphics card. Other than the graphics card, the box has 600 watt power adapter to power the graphics card, and this ASUS TUF OC graphics card comes with the graphics card stand to prevent graphics card sagging. This is very nice addition, so you don't need to buy this separately. And also contains stickers, instructions manual. Now to install the graphics card, remove the second and third expansion slot in the back of the case and open the PCIe slot plastic holder and carefully plug in the graphics card to the slot, and you should hear a click sound if it is inserted correctly. And screw in the graphics card expansion slot. Now you can see the graphics card port in the back of the case. You can use 12 volt high power cable which we have already connected to the PSU. Connect the 12 pin connector to the graphics card. Make sure you inserted the cable fully and you should not bend it too much. This is very important since the 4090 has issues with burning power adapter. Now I will install the SSD. You can install the SSD after installing the RAM sticks, that is preferred. Tomahawk Z790 Max Wi-Fi has screwless M2 shield frozzer. To remove the M2 shield, press the latch and lift the shield gently. Now the shield will open at a 45-degree angle and remove it. Insert the SSD, and I am using Samsung 990 Pro 2TB. Once the SSD is inserted, lock the SSD by turning the little notch, and to close the lid, align the 2 circular rivet to the 2 grooves in the SSD and press gently. Optionally, if you are using Ethernet cable, then you may not need the Wi-Fi. If you want to use the Wi-Fi, you can plug the WiFi antenna module to the motherboard Wi-Fi 7 port at the back. You can plug in the power card and switch on the power button in the case. Make sure you are plugging in the display to the graphics card display port. Now click the power button, you should see the boot screen. Thanks for watching. In the next video we will see about how to install the operating systems, how to activate it, how to update the drivers and everything. Thanks for watching. For more technical contents, subscribe to this channel. If you find this helpful, share it with your friends.